Right. All right. Well, it's Sunday night. It's 8:30. All right, it's Sunday night, it's 8:30, so we are checking in. How are things going with you guys?
Good. Good. The weekends, I got something to do, so I typically start the day with like a 5K, but at a nice easy pace. Like probably, I think today's was like 34 minutes. But I feel like I'm gonna lose all the work I've done during the week if I do nothing on the weekend.
Yeah, as long as you're keeping it at an easy pace and you don't feel like super beat up, then
No, I'm not running to the point where I'm getting sore or anything. I'm getting up like nice and early before the sun's up, like taking my good old time, enjoying the town, walking around, like running. I'll walk if I want to, some stuff backwards up the hills, like just chilling, taking it nice and easy. But I want to burn enough calories where I feel like I can. I've never eaten this much. Like I was saying on my one comment, like it's nuts for me. I've been a runner forever. I wrestled through high school. I do jujitsu and little like boxing and Muay Thai now. But I've always and I'm a musician, so I spent a lot of time the last few years in bars, singing songs, drinking beers, and then before I know it, I got a gut like a stomach that I've never had before in my life. So my alternative to get rid of that was run and wrestle. Well, but I'd eat like a bird. So the scale would never move. And my cousin, who's real into fitness and stuff, would constantly be telling me what I'm learning now, doing this with you. And I'm just like, I literally called him up last week. I was like, I'm sorry. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm sorry. I should have, if I had listened to you 2.5 years ago, right now, I'd be just like getting in much better shape right now through this program instead of like realizing, like, damn, what the hell did I do? I wasted a ton of time.
yeah, it's so easy to fall back into like how you've always done things, you know.
Yeah.
And if you know wrestling and you know jujitsu, then you know weight cutting and you know how to monitor those things and how it worked when you were in high school, you
Yep.
know. And
Exactly.
now it's like unless you're going to start competing and in jujitsu, I don't know, do you do competitions or not?
I haven't in like the last 2 years, not since right before COVID.
So if you start getting back into weight class competition, then obviously we need to like start looking at how to qualify for weight classes, how to do weight cuts now,
Mm-hmm.
which is slightly different than when you were in high school, but it's kind of the same idea. But regardless, if you're not doing it now, then you don't really need to worry about it. So you can like do all the fun training aspects of it without having to worry about the shitty weight cuts, you
Yeah.
know, which makes it
Yeah.
way better.
Which I'm definitely over that.
But as far as like what to do on the weekends so you feel like you don't lose your gains, that's like a fine line of like just make sure you're doing it and but you're aware like you're not going to lose your gains. Like you're not going to.
It's not gains. I just don't want to feel like lazy in a way, like I'm
I,
just sitting
I
around.
I
Do you know what I
totally
mean?
I totally understand what you're saying, but it's just a fine line to monitor the dichotomy of like I want to feel good, I want to feel like I did something active, I want to make sure that I'm like, you know, earning my food or whatever or however it
Yeah.
the information processes for you. But just know like if you're hitting it hard through the week, like it's not it's a expand out your vision, right? So see it from like not just a week and maybe not just a month, you know, but like 3 months, like your total volume in 3 months, like that matters too. So you
Okay.
look at like small scale, like the micro and then the macro. And if say something happened today where it was like you couldn't get it in, you know, you just could not train. Like I don't know, maybe somebody had to go to the hospital or something. Like
Yeah.
and then you're not going to get training in for like 2 or 3 days or 4 days maybe. Like the world's not going to end and you're really
Yeah.
not going to lose much. It's 4 fucking days. You know, it's not like you missed 4 months.
Yeah, that's a
So
good point.
so just always keeping it in perspective and knowing like, hey, I want to be able to get it every day. Cool. Yes. But also if you're dropping the hammer 6 days a week and you have a day that like you're like, man, I just couldn't do it today. Like that's okay. You hit 6 out of 7. That's pretty good. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
so like keep just keeping it all in perspective, you know.
Cool.
What about you guys, Rick, Josh? What do you got going on?
I've been doing good. The workouts have been A little tough, but I've been still working at them, and the nutrition's going well.
Good. How's protein intake?
Good. It's hard to get up to the 200 grams, but I'm trying my best to get up there.
What are you hitting?
It's usually like 150 around there.
Okay, that's not terrible. Are you getting it consistently?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Consistency is key, right? So obviously we want to hit the numbers, right? But if you're hitting one like 150 consistently, that's good, right? Then you establish that as like your go-to. Like you can always get to 150. Now, how do we get it to 165? You know, how do we add just 15 grams in? You know, so if you're eating the same thing, you know, the same protein because you're trying to hit it and make it work, like that's cool. And then now you just look at your week or your day, I should say, and then how do you add in just 15 extra grams of protein? You know, you can do that through like collagen peptides or really just adding a little bit of whatever protein source you're using. Just add a little bit more of that to what you're doing, you know, and then all of a sudden it takes it from 150 to 165. You do that again for 2-3 days, and then you say, all right, I'm gonna bump this up to 175. And you just like one by one, man, just climb the ladder.
And I was going to ask you from the video earlier, how do you cook that salmon?
That salmon. Honestly, the easiest way that I do it is I broil it. So I throw it on a broiler and like I season it different every time, right? So there's Costco's got a shitload of different seasonings, and those are really freebies. Like some of them have a decent amount of like sugar, and those probably aren't the best. But if you're not doing something like keto, then as long as you're eating clean and relatively off the food list, like even 80%, like the sugar from like the what is it, Kinder or Kinder? Like that's the brand that I use. I love their stuff, but it does have some sugar in it. But I'm not super concerned with it. If you're like 80% and then you throw that on there as some seasoning, like whatever. And really like that's whatever you want. Like I use the lemon pepper, I use the wood fire garlic tonight. Like so yeah, I do that with everything. And that's how you like I always call it my trick to eating like a college kid that's not broke. Right. So like when you're in college and you're totally broke, it's like tuna, macaroni and cheese, and like maybe a veggie that you just mix it all together and then season it different. Right. But now that I'm not completely broke, it's like, all right, so now I can actually buy some decent protein sources and then season it again with whatever I want. And then, so that's my macro for my protein and my fats usually is from animal proteins and animal sources. And then white rice and some veggie just to round out the rest of the macronutrients with carbs, and then the micronutrients with the veggie. So it's really, really simple. And I always look at it like carb, fat, protein. How am I going to get those three? And then micronutrients kind of roll in on the back end, just kind of like with some veggies and some fruits. And you don't need a ton of those. It's not like you need to eat a ton of veggies. Really, veggies are as long as you're getting some, right? It's really just kind of a Jedi mind trick for people to eat less, you know, but not eat less. Cause like when you load up your plate with veggies, it feels like you're eating a high volume of food, but it's really low calorie. So it's kind of like a Jedi mind trick. Like you don't need that much, honestly, as long as you're getting, you know, roughly like, you know, 14-20 grams of fiber a day. Like how much more do you need? And sometimes the plant fibers and stuff will actually create some gut inflammation. So if you have some like some gut issues, and you have too much of that roughage, like it's gonna do some damage to your gut lining sometimes. But that's a little bit more involved, like gut health conversation. But does that kind of answer your question? I know it got kind of long-winded there.
Yep, I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, it's really just, again, like, you know, take it to its like the basics, right? This is like week what is this? This is end of week 2, beginning week 3. So total calories, total protein, right? And and again, like always go back to that. And if you're not hitting your total calories, total protein, we just got to keep working on it. And then you keep like trying to figure out like, all right, why is this not working? How am I falling short? And then you look at your routine daily and you say, okay, what do I got to change in my routine so that I can get this done? You know? Rick, what do you got? What do you got, man? I know you got something.
Amazing. Sorry. No, I ended up actually I'm staying right on where I wanted to be. So right now, weight wise, I just hit 187.4 this morning. So I'm on track for hitting that 185 that I was shooting for after the 4 weeks. I've got energy for days, but I guess that's always me. And yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm making sure I hit between 160 and 190 protein. Monitoring my fat intake, because sometimes that's one of the ones that used to get me all the time, is all of a sudden I go over on calories because of fat wise. You know, too many Slim Jims, and all of a sudden here we go. All right, it was delicious though. It was delicious. All right, but no, just like I said, just monitoring those things and making sure that I don't intake in too much fat to be able to go out of balance for the calorie wise. All right, with how much that fat weight or how much that fat caloric intake is. I've always been kind of low carb because of the whole celiac thing, so that's always been me. I'm loving white rice like always, and yeah, I'm just I'm looking forward to this week. I just got done making a brisket kind of stew, and honestly, it gives a lot of flavor to that white rice and makes it a lot better. So
Yeah, that's what's cool about the white rice is kind of like it's kind of like the same way that you use or you can use what is it, soy basically. It will absorb the flavor of whatever it's in, and then but you get your carbs in that way. And especially if you got celiac or any autoimmune stuff, like white rice is definitely going to be the go-to. It's way easier to digest. So yeah, I'd say 160 to 190, that kind of fluctuation. Like we could probably tighten that up. 30 grams is a pretty decent spread. And then if you wanted to even up that, I think you probably could. Like you can go up to, 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And especially if you're training hard, stuff like that, and you really want to lean down, like going to 1.2 is okay, and then you can actually reduce the trick there is like if you want to lean down and you don't use a lot of carbs, that can be a good thing, obviously. But your protein choices are where it gets a little tricky because you will have to reduce your dietary fats in order to get like really lean. Like if you wanted to go like, I don't know, sub 10%, like you'll have to start looking at reducing your dietary fats. And sometimes that's a pain in the ass if you're using a lot of red meat. And red meat, I love using red meat as like primary protein sources because it's like such great micronutrient profile. But if you're trying to get like really, really lean, almost to the point of like unhealthy lean or unsustainable lean is usually the way I look at it, like sub 10%, that's usually not sustainable for longer than a few weeks for people. That's why, you do it for photo shoots and like vacation stuff like that. So, you usually don't stay there very long. So, but to do that, you'd need to, like just really use like lean meats, turkey, chicken, stuff like that. Like white fish with like zero flavor. That's where bodybuilders really amaze me. I've never done a bodybuilding show, but those dudes, like, they will eat the worst tasting shit for months on end and say no to everything. And it's psychotic, but it's impressive. I don't know if you guys have ever done that or seen that, but like the amount of dietary discipline that those guys have, regardless if they're using steroids or whatever they're doing, like it's impressive. So that's kind of how you got to play that game. And that's just, not to say that you should or shouldn't do it. Like it is unhealthy to get that low and stay that low, but you can do it for a short period of time and come right back out. It's no big deal. So is that,
Yeah, no, my DEXA ended up saying I was at 27%, so I don't think I got to worry about sub 10 anytime soon.
okay. Yeah. 27%. That's fine. Where's your fats hitting every day? Like, do you,
I was gonna say, I think it was at like 90 or something like that. So I was
Okay.
keeping them pretty low.
you're training so regularly and with enough intensity. I'm sure I've seen you work out. So you could probably, where's your carbs at?
Carbs, I haven't really been tracking them as much. That's one part, because I'm just I get kind of goofy with the rice, because it's like, is it the dry weight? Is it the wet weight? All right. And then I just kind of a bunch of, I eat like a bag of vegetables every night from that Steam Fresh type of stuff. And
It's been my go-to. So
Yeah.
steak and a lot of steak in that.
So with the rice, I cook it and then I weigh it cooked. There's some people weigh it dry and then cook it. That's just like too much math for me. So I keep it pretty simple. I know roughly, and this is very approximate, right? Like 1 cup of rice, I cook it up in the Instapot, scoop it with a cup, and I know that's roughly 50 grams, right? That's roughly, so that's going to be, or 50 carbs, I think. Yeah, that's roughly like 50 grams of carbs. That's what I'm looking for. So,
Okay.
So I kind of know that. So I usually go like, as long as I'm not exceeding like 2 cups of rice at like a day, usually that's,
Right.
That's going to be good. That'll give me about 100 grams of carbs right there. And depending on if I'm training really intensely, I'll add to that. And I'll try to put it all, like almost all of my high glycemic carbs, rice, any like shitty food that I want to squeeze in. And this is like another performance type deal, which again is not really the scope of what we're doing here. Like this is more health and stuff like that. But any trashy foods like that you have or you're going to eat, like your body is best suited to deal with that garbage immediately post workout. So that's like the some of the higher sugary stuff. Sometimes I'll steal some of the kids' snacks, like if I'm doing jujitsu and say a night got a little more out of control than I was counting on, and I'm a little shaky coming, my grip's fried or whatever, then like, hey, my central nervous system could probably use a few extra carbs. And you'll get to the point with this, at some point where you're like, I know how to pull these levers, and you can do it without like worrying about it. Like, oh, I know I lifted today. Say tomorrow's like leg day, right? Like I did a bunch of heavy deads, and then I ran kids around, and then I went and did jits, and all of it was pretty intense. Like you're going to be trashed. Like your central nervous system is going to be trashed by the end of the night. You could probably use some extra carbs towards the end of the night. You'll probably be okay. So just learning how to pull those levers, and then understanding kind of the mechanisms that go with it. I think this is pretty pertinent for tonight's conversation, but just understanding that cortisol, right? Stress hormones, cortisol primarily, and insulin are on opposite ends of a teeter-totter, right? So as your insulin goes up, your cortisol will go down. So adding insulin to the system will cause cortisol to drop. And that is really important, because like post training, right? That's where you want those carbs for several reasons. One being like muscle glycogen is sapped, right? Your muscle glycogen is gone. So now you put carbs into your system. And that's why I say like your body's best suited to deal with kind of like garbage at that time, because it's going to take that and put it right back into the muscle where you just sucked it all up from.
Okay.
So that's number one. And then 2, any type of training, anything, right, is a stress, and it will your body responds to stress by releasing cortisol, right? Cortisol is good. Like it's not a bad thing. Like we need that in order to like manage stress and deal with stress. It's how your body responds. So we need that to act normally. And when we have a stress, normally cortisol raises. Now that's not a bad thing, but it is bad if it's chronic. So that's where we fall into the trap, because like we're not like the rest of the animals. Like, we're really smart humans, so we can make decisions that will actually keep our cortisol elevated all day long, as where my dogs get stressed and then they go take a nap and then they deal with it, right? Like, we can't do that. Or we don't allow ourselves a space to do that, which is more true. But adding carbs in post stress, post training, like, will help to lower that cortisol, which will help sleep, and increasing insulin, lowering cortisol like towards the end of the night, that'll help sleep. So especially if you're training at the end of the night, like, try to use most all of your carbs, probably 65-75% of them, after your training towards the end of the night, and that'll help sleep. I play games with this at work, and it sucks. Like, being a cop, like, you deal with stress all day and you never really know what kind of stress you're going to deal with. But there was a couple of times, we had like a car chase, and another time I had to shoot a couple dogs, and it was like, it was pretty stressful. And I remember, like, I need some carbs right now. and it was good to know, like, all right, I know what a central nervous system like overload feels like. I know what the stress feels like, and then I know how to deal with it. And after I had, a big bowl of rice and chicken and stuff like that, I went and got to like Chipotle. Is a Chipotle type restaurant. But just loaded it up, got some extra rice, got some extra protein in there, and dealt with it that way, and it helped a ton. So
That's wild.
So just knowing, like, all right, this is how it feels to be stressed. Now, what do I do with this? How do I respond? And just kind of understanding even just a little bit about the mechanisms of stress response, cortisol, insulin, and that kind of stuff. Then you better know how to deal with it on the back end, which helps recovery immensely. So, all right. So
Just
cortisol.
off of getting carbs in after a workout like that, like I usually work out between 5 and 6 in the morning, like first thing before I head to, I work for the National Guard. I'm an armorer, so I maintain building, make sure inventory is what it should be. So I get a workout in before I go open the building for the soldiers and stuff. So I typically will work out 5:30. And then when I get there, my breakfast for the last 2 weeks has been protein shake, like 2 scoops, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and then some days a protein bar or something like that with it. Is there something else I should be adding to that, like more carb base, or am I getting enough from a protein bar or something like that? Like, would you put like oatmeal in there, or like, what would you add to that? Because I feel good until lunchtime, but I am hungry now that I'm eating more like this. Like, I'm ready to eat at lunch.
Yeah. So if you're working out that early, definitely getting something post training where you get at least 25 grams of carbs and 25 grams of protein. So you could put some oatmeal in there. That would be fine. The best thing, and I'm not a big supplement pusher, but highly branched cyclic dextrin, HBCD, right? So if you add
HBCD,
highly branched cyclic dextrin, it's pretty cheap. You can get it from True Nutrition, and you just take 1 scoop of protein or whatever you really do for your protein, and then 1 scoop of carbs, and that will be enough right there. You
right
don't
now it's just genuine. Like, I'm getting the protein in the morning. Like, would you say 25 there?
Yeah.
I'm getting that easily from my eggs and like just muscle milk protein, just regular in a shaker with almond milk. I think I'm taking right now. Would you say like regular milk, or is almond milk all right?
So here's
I don't remember what the food list says. I'm not looking at it right now.
So here's what I would recommend from just like a digestion standpoint and an absorption standpoint is I would do you're doing a protein shake, right? So you're taking a scoop of protein, throwing it in. Yeah. So I would do a scoop of your protein, whatever it is totally fine. And then I would do a scoop of those carbs, the highly branched cyclic dextrin, unflavored.
Okay.
Don't buy the flavored one, you'll hate life. And I would just do that. I swear I did it.
Oh, that's liquid.
It's a powder. It looks just like protein powder.
Okay, and then what I'm saying, what would you mix that in?
Water.
What's the best thing?
I would
just straight water.
Yep. Just
okay, cool.
Water.
All right.
And as long as your protein powder tastes decent, it'll be all right. And then wait. So the reason for that is, right, the carbs are going to be sucked up immediately, and the protein is going to be right behind it. So adding fats into the mix right post workout isn't bad, but it just slows your digestion down because it takes longer to digest fats than it does
Okay.
protein. So if you take that 1 scoop of carb, 1 scoop of protein just in water, take that immediately post training, like within 20, 30 minutes, and then wait another 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, and then start adding your fats in. Then you could really do another smoothie or a heavier shake if you wanted. You can do your eggs then, add fats in, like just give like 20, 30 minutes for that initial carbs and protein to just kind of clear your system a little bit, and then throw the rest of the fats in.
And that was HBGC, you said?
Highly
have that-
branched cyclic dextrin, HBCD. Yeah.
GD. Okay, cool.
And
Got it.
if you guys are buying supplements, True Nutrition they're cheap. It's pretty much like white label supplements, but it's
Okay.
all really good quality. I've never had an issue with them. Been using them for years.
Cool. Yeah, it's not bad at all. $20 for a bag.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about that because like I haven't felt bad, but like my metabolism from eating like a bird before, just from the stuff I've been listening to with Huberman and all that, I just like I probably destroyed my metabolism, like just speed wise.
Yeah, you create, when you're in a deficit for a long time, right? You
Mhm.
create a new set point for your metabolism, and it's like you don't even realize, like, man, I've been underfeeding for a long time, and then your body
Yeah.
doesn't respond the same way, and then like weight doesn't come off, and then when you try to go lower, it still doesn't move, and then you have to rebuild like this, So
Cool. Thank you.
what else you guys got? I'm trying to think I think I went way more in depth here than I thought I was going to tonight. But I like it. This is the kind of stuff I really like getting into, but it's usually not where we get 2 weeks into a this program, which is fine. So you guys got anything else?
Yeah, I did. Okay, so one of the things, I get so tired of drinking just plain water all the time. So I've just been throwing in like a little lemon juice and whatnot in there. You got anything else? Recommendations? Give me something.
I feel you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to my dad. I've been talking to my dad. My dad loves snack foods and like sugary drinks. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Just drink water? Yes, just drink water. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to give you anything like without adding in a downside, right? So stuff like Element, some electrolyte supplements, like you can throw those in. Those kind of like mix it up a little bit. Liquid IV, I use Liquid IV post training, or something. No, pre-training. I'm sorry, said that wrong. I'll use Liquid IV and creatine pre-workout, and then depending, like when it starts getting hot again, I'll start to add more salt to that. But it does have some sugar. So if you got room for sugar and you want to throw it in there and you want to do some Liquid IV, you just have to understand what you're doing, and when you're doing it and why you're doing it. And if you start getting the habit of doing it all the time, it's going to add a bunch of extra sugar into the day. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. Other stuff that I do if I need, so if you find yourself like having like a craving for like sweetness, which I do all the time, then making sure that you're, number one, like getting enough carbs. Because usually if I get like intense cravings for like candy or cookies or whatever, like it's usually signaling to me like I am starting to dig a hole for myself from overtraining and under recovering, and I'm probably not getting enough carbs in. So I need to look at my carb intake, and then you can start playing games with like, all right, maybe one day a week we do a big carb day where we load up like 300 grams of carbs, 350, 400, something like that, one day a week, and then we go back down to our regular level at like 200 or 100 or wherever you're at, right? And a lot of times that will reduce those cravings, and it won't be a big deal. But Element's a pretty cool product because it tastes good and it doesn't have sugar. I don't think it might have some artificial sweeteners, but like if you don't care about those, like I don't think they're a big deal either. So, yeah, I don't know. Does that help at all?
Yeah, no, that's just one of those ones where I'm after the first like 2 quarts, all right, I start to want something else. Just like some Propel or something, all right, just something with a flavor. Because I don't know, I'm ADHD. I got
I
bored
feel
real
ya.
quick. All right, so all right, what's the squirrel that I want to chase? All right, so and that's where like it's just yeah, no, it's just one of those ones where I'm like, I'm trying to always fight that battle of, okay, don't get something sweet, focus on what you're doing, maintain, follow the plan, Rick, don't be a douche. So that's where it keeps coming down to. And it's that inner struggle, which is the same struggle I've had the entire time. Anytime I've ever done this is like what you said, and actually your little your podcast that you had the other day, all right, your thing where you're like, all right, it's week 2, all right, and this is when everybody starts going down the rabbit hole of, oh shit, I want to go back to the way things used to be. Yeah, no, I was right there. It was Monday morning. All right, I want to go have big ass thing of hash browns, and all right, I've got a meeting here, I really don't care, and then I'm going, you know what, no, I gotta stick to the program. You're all right.
Nice.
But I do a lot of my training it's every night from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So like when I wake up in the morning, I'm starving, but I know that that's not my eating window. So I smash on some coffee, I get out there, and I drink a shit ton of water. And by noon, I am bored of water. So that's why I was like, what's my next go-to? All right. I need my next something I get to look forward to.
Mm.
And yeah, no, if and now I'm focused on April 15th for my next race, and I'm just like, okay, so I've got to train, I've got to stay at 185. This is what I got to do. I got to work on my grip strength. I got to continue and just keep those little goals, all right, to be able to maintain what I'm doing currently, which is why I'm here. So, but yeah, no, looking forward to something is my big thing.
So something to you may be able to work. You could probably work something like that in definitely like pre or post training, right? So I think you could afford to do a little bit more. Like if you wanted to add some carbs in the form of like a liquid prior to training, like that'd be all right. And then making sure that definitely as it gets warmer out, you're getting enough sodium. So something like an Element might not be a bad plan to throw into a little bit of water, more towards your training time, right? Because like if you're drinking, so pros and cons again, like and understanding kind of mechanisms of how things work. Water's great, right? Do you need a gallon of water a day? Probably not. But it's a good habit to get into because then you're always getting water. Because like most of us walk around chronically dehydrated. And a lot of times, and again, this is like we're talking some Jedi mind trick stuff into like eating less calories for a lot of people. A lot of times a gallon of water a day, or what is it, half your body weight in ounces or something like that. Like whatever the gurus say about water intake is really a way to like make sure that the signal that you're getting that you're hungry isn't actually a signal that you're thirsty, because those things react the same way, right? So a lot of times if you're like, oh, I'm hungry, and you're used to eating and snacking all day long, and then you add in just drinking, 8 glasses of water or a gallon of water or whatever the water is that you're not getting, then you won't be hungry because your body's getting satiated by like satisfying the water signal. And then like the feedback, what is it, aldosterone, I think, that regulates like water intake. So that's on a 24-hour lag. So whatever water you consume today is usually 24 hours, it'll start to kick on and it'll say like, all right, now you can start flushing this water. So it's kind of like you retain the water for about a day and then you'll just start releasing all of it, right? So that helps to get people wins with like losing weight and seeing reduction in body weight. Like that happens, that's a quick win. So that's kind of the behind the scenes like nutrition coaching as to why that is. But if you're already like relatively lean and or you're training really hard, here's the downside of doing a gallon, right? Is that you can actually flush out all your electrolytes, just piss it out, right? So if you're drinking water, your body's going to say, okay, we got tons of water coming in. Now I can get rid of all of it. Right. So if you're pissing clear, that means you could be dehydrating yourself with drinking that much water. And you're not dehydrating because you don't have water. You're dehydrating because you don't have electrolytes and salt. So it's kind of like a balancing act when you're training hard, as to maintaining the electrolyte balance. And that is the key, is maintaining the electrolyte balance, the sodium potassium pump, like within your cells, right? That regulates like stuff across like cellular membranes and like if you get muscle cramps, like when I did CrossFit competitively, I used to cramp like crazy and I could never understand why. And I was doing like paleo, which wasn't smart. But because I was doing paleo, I wasn't getting any carbs, and then I wasn't drinking enough water, and then I was doing no salts. So I had no carbs to hold water. I wasn't drinking enough water, and I wasn't getting any salts and electrolytes. And then you wonder why you're cramping. Like, you're an idiot. Like, eat some carbs, get some salt, and like stop being stupid. So it's just kind of understanding, like, all right, we can do some we can add a little bit of sugar here with some salt pre-training, and it's going to be all good. It might actually help performance, is Stan Efferding talks about that a ton. And I thought it was kind of like crazy, but I took a seminar from him like in 2019. And before we did some training, he mixed up, we had a bunch of orange juice, like 4 ounces of orange juice and table salt. We took a teaspoon of table salt, put it in the orange juice, mixed it up, and sucked it down. And I was like, this is weird. Like, this is your pre-workout? And he was like, yep. And sometimes I'll do caffeine pills with it and sometimes not. And like, dude, it was, I've not gone back to anything for pre-workout other than that. I swear it was
4 ounces of orange juice and a tablespoon of salt.
500 milligrams of salt. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yep.
wild.
A teaspoon, a full teaspoon, sometimes
A
two.
teaspoon. Okay,
Yeah, not a tablespoon.
that's a shitload of salt.
But no, it was like, it changed my whole pre-workout thoughts, right? Because like the sodium is a vasodilator, so it opens up all your capillaries and it helps muscular contraction because you're putting sodium into your system, right? The orange juice is really just a vessel to get it into your system quick. The sugar just gets it right in your bloodstream. And then if you want to do some caffeine, cool. If you don't, like, whatever, and I'm telling you, man, like that changed a lot for me, because I was like, I'm not getting enough salt still, and salt is actually like considered by, if you talk to like Huberman, I'm sure would talk at length about this, or probably has, and I just haven't heard it, but a performance enhancing supplement is salt. So make sure you're getting your salts, especially if you're drinking them. So yeah. So moral of the story, long story short, right? If you're drinking a gallon of water a day, awesome. It's a good habit to do. Make sure you're getting enough salt and sodium with it, especially if you're reducing your carbs. If you're reducing your carbs, that means you're going to hold less water. So you're going to need some extra salt.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, it's 9:15-ish. All right. So we went, like I said, in depth with a lot of stuff. Action items for this week. So let's just go around the circle. Like, what's the number one thing that you're working on this week? Josh, ready to go.
I want to try to hit the workouts and hit every single thing. And if I can't do one, I want to at least substitute it with something.
Okay. What time are you training?
So I work day shifts, so it's usually after work around 3:30 or so.
Okay. So here's what we need. We need you to not be or so. You need to say, I train at 3:30, period, end of story.
Okay.
Barring an emergency, right?
Right.
Yep. So that's it, right? And if you get to a point with a workout where you're like, I don't know what to do, then what I want you to do is message me directly and I will help you through it. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. So that's your action step. And then I also am going to add you part 2 of action step is If we're at 150 consistently, then you're going to be at 165 protein for this week.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
Doable.
Yep.
I like it. Jake.
I need to be way more consistent with the sleep.
Okay.
The sleep. I gotta get. That's just like the first thing that jumped in mind to me. Like I'm, and I want to get on the excuse me. What is it? That other excuse me. The branched silical dextrin or whatever. I want to grab some of that. I want to tighten up the my eating and get better with the sleep. My eating's been really good. Like, it's the first time like I said, my cousin's been telling me for years to track this stuff, and I've been like crazy about it. I use the MyNet Diary app. Every single thing I'm eating, I'm scanning, putting in there. Like, I haven't missed protein once. I'm usually around 200 to 225 grams of protein. My fats are right around 100 to 110, and my carbs are about 140 to 150 usually. So like I've been pretty good with that. I had him looking at it earlier today. He's like, this isn't bad. He does the MAPS program with those guys. So he typed all that into that calculator. And this was for my daily budget, only about 100 off based off that stuff. So he was pretty cool with that. And I told him I working with you. He's like, that's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing there. So it's really for me being consistent with when I'm getting to bed. The workout's pretty solid every day. I want to be consistent about that. It's one of my daily disciplines I have checked like the least is that sleep. So I want to get good with that, and then really just keep dialing in on the supplements and food.
Cool. So sleep is one that I struggle with a ton because there's always shit that I got to do, and once I get done here, I still got to cook some food.
Yep.
And then next thing I know,
two kids, 2 dogs, wife, life in
fucking,
general,
yeah,
man.
it's fucking midnight, and I was supposed to be in bed 2 hours ago. So just having so this is actually something I'm working with my son on, my 14-year-old, right? Some of his grades weren't where they should have been, and now it's like, all right, what's the problem here? And I'm going to kind of tangent off and I'll circle back around here, but like, what's the problem here? The problem is not that the kid's stupid. The problem is that he doesn't understand how to use his time. You know what I mean? And that was the same issue that I had growing up, but my dad, all he did was say, try harder, do better. I'm going to,
hammer on it. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I'm trying hard. I just wasn't managing my time, and I find that like, I'm doing the same thing, and that's why I'm not getting to bed till midnight. It's not that I couldn't done the shit earlier. I just chose not to do it because I was doing something different. So it's making sure that you're managing your time, blocking your time. And I've got to go back and do some stuff a little bit tighter so that I can not be in bed by midnight, so that I can show him how to do it and set a good example. So there's some time blocking exercise. I don't know if do you run off of like a Google Calendar or anything?
I use Google Calendar. I got my wake up. Like, I'm good with setting that up. It's adhering to it at times. You know what I mean? It's hard to come off that. Like, my day's pretty much blocked out. Wake up, journal, like prayer, meditation, whatever I'm doing, gym, to work. Like, I have it all knocked out like that. It's just staying with it. Something happens and pulls you out of that. Then that 30, 45 or 60-minute block that you're supposed to be doing this in gets bumped or pushed, and next thing you know, it's
so the trick with that, and this is
10
hard
o'clock at night, and you're trying to find time with the wife or like anything in general.
Yeah,
Throwing the gym clothes in the laundry at like, oh shit, I forgot to do that earlier. Like, I need them in 7 hours.
yeah. So the trick with that is like having a drop dead time when it's like, if it's not done, it just isn't done, and or having stuff that's like urgent but not important, what is it? I can't remember. God, I've gone through so many books in the last like 7 years, but it falls in the category of urgent but not important. So it's like, all right, like, it's urgent, it should get done, but it's totally not important. Like, whatever.
Brown time. It's brown time. Golden time, green time, brown time.
Yeah,
Well,
basically.
like,
yeah.
I had a guy teach me that when I was getting into sales and all that. Like, how are you blocking your day? That's why I have the Google Calendar now, but I've been falling off of it.
Yeah. And it might be too, where maybe you got too much in your day and you got to start offloading some stuff and looking at it and saying, legitimately, I'm trying to cram 10 pounds of shit into an 8-pound bag. Like,
yep.
there's something's got to go. Something's got to get taken
There's
away.
definitely some truth to that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I do that shit all the time where I'm like volunteering for my kids' weight room, doing stuff for my daughter, like running everywhere. It's like, all right, man, you got to take a step back because you can't
Say no to something. You
Yeah.
can say no to something. Yeah, I feel you.
So I would say just try to be more disciplined with your drop dead time this week. Like whatever time that is, like boom, done. And then just audit your blocks, audit your calendar, and see what you can legitimately like delegate to somebody else.
Mhm.
Like ask your wife if she can help with it, or whoever, if they can help with it, and then free up some of your time so that you can go to sleep because that's important.
Yep.
So,
Roger
right.
that.
Rick, what do you got?
Cold plunge. Got to get it in this week. All right. I'm going to go for a swim. So I've got, me and a buddy Snell ended up making my little rig that I've got here for the red light therapy. So, that's something that I hit pre and post workout. All right. Just it makes me feel good. And honestly, I don't see myself cramping up or having some of the bad, after, because I hate running, but man, I've got, on May 13th, I've got a 21K on Saturday, a 10 and a 5 on Sunday, to being able to get that trifecta weekend. And that sounds horrible, but it's one of those ones where I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. All right. And I've been training for it for the last 6 months. So, but man, running is freaking boring, especially on those long distances. But yeah, no, just for me, getting that cold plunge in. All right. Again, I want to talk to a buddy. He's got a setup over at his house, and I'm just trying to figure out, do I do it in the morning? Do I do it at night? If I do it at night, I know it helps drop your body temperature so that you can end up sleeping better and stuff like that. But I do all my late night training anyways, so it's like, all right, do I do a post workout, or pre workout, or do I do it at 5 a.m. and jump in and wake up that way? So I don't know. I haven't never. Last year I went in for a swim in the lake every single month. All right, when I was doing the whole Wim Hof thing. All right. This year, I just haven't made it up there, and I've been a lazy ass. So now it's one of those ones where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back in there. I'm gonna feel good. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna make sure that it's invigorating. That's for sure. So
I don't think there's a bad time to do it, man. I really don't. So the biggest downside to cold plunges post training is only if you are worried about hypertrophy. Like if you're trying to gain size, that will blunt the process. It'll blunt the inflammatory process at the moment, right? Which will be detrimental for gaining size, right? But if you're not worried about that, then I don't see a problem with it post training. And I've had some really good results using cold plunges after working nights. So like 4 or 5 in the morning, once I'm getting done with shift, I'm getting in the water, then getting some carbs, then going to bed, and I would sleep like a fucking rock. So it has this really cool like shift sympathetic, right? When you go and get into the water, and it just sends you in a huge fight or flight response. And then if you get out and you calm down right away and you allow yourself space to calm down, you'll shift back the other way, just like the dogs I talked about earlier, right? So your body knows it knows that you swing one way, you have to swing the other. So it will crash you out. So that has benefit too. With my shift, the way I'm doing it right now, I really like getting up and making it part of my morning, where I'm getting up and right away just getting right into the ice for 3 to 4 minutes, and then starting my day from there. But I don't really see that there's a bad time to do a cold plunge. I think it's totally fine wherever you can fit it in. Just drop the hammer on it and do it. And what I've got my freezer that I kind of created in the garage. I did the whole what is it? Flex sealed the inside and like what made it watertight, but it's a pain in the ass because it gets dirty all the time and you got to drain it and like bail all the water out. It's a pain in the ass. So there's times when it's like, I don't have time to clean it and it's gonna have to wait for a week. So like, if there's days like that, I just do the best I can with cold showers and, it's still a cold exposure. It's just not as systemic as a cold plunge. So,
There's a, for $85, it's an ozone cleaner. My cousin just transferred a $50 Kenworth he got offline into a beautiful box for under 400. Ozone cleaner and this type of peroxide you put in it, you're good for like 6 months to a year.
send it to me.
I'll show you, I'll get the link from him and shoot it to you.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
saw I'll send you some pictures of his the ice box he made in his garage. It's unbelievable for 350. I'm like, dude, you need to make a YouTube video on this and break the industry. People
we
are selling for
post-
$5,000.
Yeah, no, and that $5,000 like cold plunge unit is beautiful, and that's awesome. I'd love to have one, but I'm not going to spend $5,000 on that.
Hell
Right?
no.
No
Hell
way.
no.
I need a new minivan. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'll drop the link in the Facebook group.
Yeah,
I'll just shoot it to you direct both.
yeah. Put it in both. That'd be great, man. Thank you.
You got the same type of setup if you just have an ice chest emptied out.
Yeah, sweet.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, you guys are killing it, and I think we can go ahead and call it for tonight. You guys all have some good stuff to work on this week, and yeah, let me know if you got any questions, and I'll try to stay more active this week in the Facebook group as well.
Sounds good. Thank you as always.
No problem, guys.
Anthony,
Everybody have a good week, guys.
See ya.
Here, guys.